Beach FM, locals talking to locals.
Beach FM, and we welcome back the Waikanae Ward Councilor, Jocelyn Prvanov. Good morning.
Good morning, John. How are you doing today?
Very well. Now, I've been following the progress through the notices from Metlink about the toilets at the Waikanae Railway Station. How are they going now?
Well, they're actually going quite slowly. So I go into Wellington a few times a week, and I suppose I've been noticing how things have been moving quite slowly. And so I've done... I've made some inquiries, and I think they're actually meant to have been completed by about September.
Yes,
but apparently there's a bit of an issue with some of the underground piping. I think it's the water source, and so they're going to have to do a bit more work than they had first planned, which has just delayed the process. But I think it was the end of November or sometime in early December that. They're going to be completed. So what this will allow is to have toilets available there 24/7, because at present, when the office is closed, the toilets are closed as well. And when you're spending virtually an hour coming out from Wellington, it's good to have that option if you need it when you get here.
Right on the limit for some people, as they say, it can be very inconvenient. So these 24-hour toilets, and that's a wonderful thing, but there's always a concern about security and vandalism of facilities. Are there any security measures being put in place to try and combat that?
I'm not actually sure about that, but I know when the Waikanae train station was reconfigured, it's probably quite a few years ago now, there was a lot of conversations then about the fact that some of the trains were going to be stored overnight there, and security, and so there's actually a big camera set up there. So
that's a very good point.
Yes, so they will be covered in that. So I think the systems are already in place to cover any potential issues that could arise there.
Excellent. Well, that's very good to sign off, and the sooner it happens, the better. They do seem to have been coming on for months and months and months now. I think it was almost before the lockdown that the work began there, and I began mentioning. And in fact, the reason that we're talking about this is that I haven't mentioned for a while on the radio. It's very much yesterday's news, but it looks like some good news may be coming.
Yeah, so I'd like to think that, as summer progresses, and certainly we're going to be going to be able to go overseas like a lot of people do, and hopefully we, the Kapiti Coast and in Waikanae, we can encourage a lot of people from Wellington to come up, and having those facilities there, I think would be really, really useful.
That always used to be the role of the Kapiti Coast. It was the playground of Wellington. It's the time when maybe there's not much more than a few batches around the place and not much in the way of townships. But Wellington used to come up to the Kapiti Coast to recreate, didn't they? And perhaps we can do more of that again.
Well, there's many things you can do here. That's a real...
Absolutely. Now, one of those things, of course, the beaches, that's what made the Kapiti Coast famous in those halcyon days of yore. And we've got the beach bylaw out. I think more and more people are getting to grips with it now. What's the reaction been as far as you're concerned, Jocelyn?
It's been quite a long process to date, and certainly that was extended by COVID. So where we are now is we're actually in the formal consultation phase. So we had an informal consultation phase earlier in the year where we're actually just gauging, what the communities were thinking. And so what has happened now is that the document has been, the draft bylaw, which must be updated every 10 years, has been redrafted with some of the thoughts that the community have had, and then as well as the councillors and council staff, and so now it's gone out for public consultation. So basically, I think as of the 12th of October, that started, and that goes until the 13th of November. And so there are some, I suppose in our area here, there are one or two things that are a bit different. And a new thing is looking at, it makes comment about potentially having a little bit better control of vehicles who go onto the beach at the Waikanae Boating Club, for example. And they're actually, I think they've suggested, and this is what they want feedback on it, to see what people think about having some form of gated system for allowing cars on and off the beach. So it's not going to stop cars, but it's going to control it, potentially control it far more better than it is at present. And I suppose there are some potential issues where cars are going off down towards the Waikanae River outlet, which is part of a dock reserve, and that's actually a no-go for both cars and dogs, for that matter. So there's also going to be some stuff in there about car parking. And so I think it's really important for everyone to have a look at it. And I was just sitting down looking at the initial informal survey results, and it shows that there's been, really good input from, the vast majority of the community. But I have to say there's two groups that are virtually absent in terms of their input, and that's actually the really young people, the people up to 30. Yes. And we all know that they do use the beach, and so I would really like to encourage everyone, and particularly some of those younger parts of our community who haven't really had a say, to actually, to take a little bit of time and look at the document and then and then make their comments. And as I've said before, it's really important to, even if you agree with it, to actually say that, rather than just assuming that if you make no comment that you do agree with it. So I'm just looking here at, it's actually quite nicely broken down into Peka Peka, Waikanae and Waikanae Beach. 14 and under, there's absolutely no one.
Wow. And
then in that age group, in Waikanae from 15 to 19, there's actually a few there, but in the Waikanae Beach area, there's virtually none. And even in the 20 to 29 group, it's actually it's tiny.
Gosh.
So but the other groups are really, in fact, there's more 80s and above, I suppose, than under 30.
Doesn't surprise me. And, there's something here about civics education and young people getting to the stage where they think, well, okay, I can vote now. I do hope they'll vote, by the way, because that's very important. Not enough young people vote. But also that they have a voice and that they can make a difference. And in a way, I think many of the older people look to the younger people to get more invested in these decisions because, frankly, they're the ones who are going to have to live with the consequences of those decisions for much longer than the older people. So it's really important. Jocelyn, you mentioned the young people were one of the groups that were not well represented in those submissions. What was the other group? You mentioned two groups.
Yeah, so it was basically, there was two groups. One was 14 and under, the other one was between, I'll just go back to it, 14 and under, and 15 to 19, and 20 to 29. So it's actually broken down into quite some areas.
Right, I see.
And those groups are really... and I suppose there's probably a lot of people who adults who fill in these, who do these surveys, and they may well have children. And it's about, encouraging their children to do it as well, because they might have quite a different viewpoint.
Absolutely. And a very important viewpoint. And this, I assume, is to last us for another 10 years or so.
Well, that's exactly right. And so as a 14-year-old, and I suppose sometimes your views do change, but, it's that mindset carrying forward as to, how you view things. So right. It's around for a long time.
And I believe it's got to be put in place by early-ish next year, about April or so of next year. I believe it's got to be in place, the new beach bylaw.
I think it's actually the end of June.
Okay, so a little bit more time. All right, but the important thing is the consultation document is out now. Get out and consult, make your voice heard, and let's be part of this wonderful thing called democracy. Very precious. We've got to look after it, and we've got to use it. Jocelyn Prvanov, thank you so much for joining us this morning. It's always a pleasure.
Thank you, John. Have a lovely day.
106.3 Beach FM.